Good evening, everyone. Call this regular council meeting Monday, January the 15th, 2024, 7 p.m. to order, and to acknowledge we are on the traditional territory of the Stehelas. Next order of business, please. Actually, before I go to the next order, I would like to, we have an award here for the holiday lighting contest to 831 Ming Crescent for first place for residential. And just to follow up to that, so some of the people that didn't hear that conversation, and that was a thank you to the beautiful job that everybody has done, all the volunteers, the staff, of making our waterfront look the way it looks. They've done an awesome job. Again, thank you to them all. Yeah. So the next order of business then, please.
The next order of business is introduction of late items.
Is there any late items? Next order of business then, please.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
There was,
Some late items?
yeah, I have two resolutions for council's consideration. One is to remove the closed meeting following the regular council meeting. And the second one is to refer to staff to come back to council with a draft plan with cost and funding sources for a new office in Chambers.
Thank you. So we'd like to add that.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, please. I'd just like to object to these ambush resolutions. If Councillor Facio had wished to put such an item in front of council, he had lots of time, almost a month to do so. And I, for one, don't like having the surprise resolutions put in front of me at the start of the meeting, unless there's some urgency for that. And obviously, there's no urgency in either of these issues. So I think it's out of order that we have such ambush resolutions. Every councillor should be able to put their motions before council in a timely fashion, so we have time to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. As their council procedural bylaw, then this requires a resolution of council. So I would ask for a resolution of council to add the two items from Councillor Facio under new business, under section F. Would be F and G. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion on that, further discussion. Councillor Allen.
Does the mover go first, or does the?
It doesn't matter. It's whoever.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to restate my objection, Mr. Mayor. As I understand, the first resolution Mr. Facio wishes to proceed with tonight has something to do with your calling of a special council meeting as a closed in camera meeting. And I think that's something that is your prerogative to do. And it's not something that we should be discussing as a resolution of council. If you want to call a meeting, you're the mayor, you should be able to call a meeting. The second one is a long-standing objective of Mr. Facio's to build a large new administrative office center for the village. And that discussion should happen in the context of the official community plan and our needs for infrastructure, including office space. And it shouldn't be discussed here at the last minute as a council meeting. If Mr. Facio wishes to make a submission to council or to the APC suggesting that we need a lot more office space in the future, then that should be part of our planning process, which is kind of up in the air at the moment due to provincial regulations. So I object to both of these being added to tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Yes, your worship.
Councillor Facio.
The member to my left here introduces late items whenever he chooses to. So when somebody else does, he objects to it. However, looking at a new building is just putting something on the table for the future. It's got a long way to go before anything happens. You have to start sometime. If we continually work on the negative, we will never get anything done. So I would support this, so we just get the ball rolling and see what happens after we get a design, contact and consultation with all the members of people of Harrison. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. On the introduction of the late item, I did put it forward to the corporate officer at least a week and a half before the required time. And in regards to the, I said, asking staff for come back with conceptual plans that for whatever reasons, this was put off twice by two committees of the whole last year, the last one being on the 20th of July, could we refer this to a later committee of the whole? That never happened. Whatever reason, I'm not complaining about that, but those that did come up twice last year, so I'm just bringing it forward now for the third time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vidal.
I have no comment at this time, Mayor Wood.
Thank you. So I just to add to that, so that the first resolution is on the future agenda of the committee of the whole. So again, for the record, it was actually on the record. The second item here was a resolution. So I want to deal with that resolution right now so that you can discuss that. And that is that the council released the November 6, 2023 closed meeting resolutions from the late items of Councillor Facio. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion on this?
Excuse me, Mayor Wood, November the 2nd, you said?
Sorry, there's been moved and seconded.
I'm not, can you explain? I'm not quite up to what you're referring to.
Well, we're into discussion now, so this is your opportunity for discussion. This is your second resolution, and that's to release resolutions from the November the 6th, 2023 closed meeting of council.
That's not my resolution.
What was your resolution?
My resolution, sir, was to, the first one was to remove the closed meeting. That's to follow the regular council meeting tonight.
My apologies, Councillor. So I withdraw that motion then. And Councillor Allen, you're good with withdrawing that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my error. Apologize for that, Councillor Facio. So you were asking to remove the closed door section at the end of this meeting.
Yes, Mayor Wood.
Thank you. Did I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion on that. Councillor Vidal, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I wasn't sure whether this is appropriate under introduction of late items or approval of the agenda, but nonetheless, Councillor Facio has made the motion that that item be removed from the agenda. I support that as our closed meetings and in-camera meetings are not held immediately following a regular council meeting. They are held either prior to the start of a council meeting or on a different day. So I support Councillor Facio's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on that? Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to speak against Councillor Facio's motion. I would restate that it is purely the prerogative of you as the mayor to call special meetings of council, and this, according to the notice that I have in my hand, was called by you as a special meeting to follow this meeting tonight. And while I'm not at liberty to disclose to the public the item for discussion which you have set out for us, I would just like to say that I believe that this is a matter that needs to be dealt with urgently and that it should only take a few minutes to do so. And that I think we should do so tonight because this is something of vital importance to this community, that we both make this decision, if in fact it needs to be made at a special closed meeting, and I don't believe it does, but that we would have also a resolution that meeting to make public the decision immediately following the meeting, so the public isn't left guessing as to why we're going behind closed doors. And this, to my mind, is not really a closed door issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'm just going to add to that. Councillor Vidal, just for clarification, there is no resolution of council for closed meetings before. Regular meeting per council procedural bylaw starts at 7, ends at 10 o'clock. This was a special meeting that was requested by Councillors Facio and Councillor Vidal. This was set up. It was set up originally for last Wednesday. It was postponed to the end of the meeting tonight. I concur what Councillor Allen has just said. It's an important meeting. It's a very, very quick meeting. Ready to call the question.
May I have the motion read again, please, Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Facio. Would you like to read your motion again, please?
Yes, Mayor Wood, that the closed meeting following the adjournment of the regular council meeting be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was moved by Councillor Facio and seconded by yourself, Councillor Vidal. So I call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Opposed, Mr. Mayor. If they don't want to come, they just don't have to attend. Simple.
Passes with the mayor and Councillor Allen opposed. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is approval of the agenda.
I have approval of agenda. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded
As
by
amended, Mr. Mayor, please. Just for clarification, adoption of the agenda as amended, correct?
it's a subsequent meeting to it that would follow after this meeting. So it is actually, it's not on the agenda, Councillor. If council wishes not to attend, then council doesn't have to attend.
Just for clarification then, Mr. Mayor, you are,
So it's approval of the agenda.
I'm speaking, please, that I just want some clarification that in your opinion, you are going to go ahead with the closed meeting after adjournment, and it is up to councillors whether they attend or not. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor.
Thank you.
So it was moved by Counselor Jackson. It was seconded by Counselor Facio. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Allen.
I just need to be clear. What Councillor Vidal is talking about is a different meeting. It's a special meeting. So the motion that you have on the floor is just for approval of the agenda of the regular meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So ready to call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
Could I ask a clarifying question, Mayor Wood?
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
No, that's okay. Just in regards to the agenda, so just to be clear,
Yes.
there was the motion during the introduction of late items, of Counselor Facio's that passed,
Correct.
and now the agenda was adopted just as it sits on this form here. So are we discussing an additional item for item F under new business for the village office, or was that not added to the agenda?
That should have been, but it was not. It should have been included, yes. So let me just recall the approval of the agenda then. So it's approval of the agenda as amended, which included the village office, which would be is under new business item F. Okay. Yeah. So I'll call the question on that. So again, for approval of the agenda as amended, it was moved by Counselor Jackson, seconded by Counselor Facio. And call the question on that again. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Counselor Allen and the mayor opposed. Next order of business, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. The next order of business is adoption of council minutes.
So that the regular council meeting minutes of December 18th, 2023 be adopted. Do I have a mover?
Move, Mayor Wood.
Moved by Counselor Facio, seconded by Counselor Vidal. Errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Nobody opposed? Passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is business arising from the minutes.
Any business arising for Counselor Vidal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under December 18th minutes, agenda item or page 5, under new business, item B, adopt a tree program. I will make the following motion. That staff be directed to proceed with removing the 4 deceased oak trees located on the Lillooet West as soon as possible.
Do I have a seconder?
Second, Mayor Wood.
Moved by Counselor Vidal, seconded by Counselor Facio, and I will rule it out of order.
Why is it out of order, Mr. Mayor, please?
Is there any further new business or any
No, I have
Business.
clarification, please, then from the corporate officer.
Counselor Vidal, you're out of order, please.
Clarification, please, Mr. Mayor, as to why you're ruling this out of order.
Counselor Vidal,
This is a business arising from the minutes, and I have a right to speak to it.
Counselor Vidal, you're out of order.
Why am I out of order, Mr. Mayor, please?
You're out of order, Counselor Vidal.
Out of order,
Because
Mr.
you're
Mayor.
speaking and you do not have the floor, Counselor.
Why am I out of order, Mr. Mayor, please? A
Counselor-
motion has been put on the table.
Vidal.
A motion,
Counselor Vidal, you are out of order, please.
a motion has been put on the table, Mr. Mayor, and seconded.
You're-
It's time for discussion.
Your your motion was out of order.
Why is it out of order, Mr. Mayor? I deserve an explanation as to why it's out of order.
Counselor, you were out of order. Counselor Allen, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I have a point of order to make. What the Councillor Vidal is suggesting is a major decision, which is been in front of council for quite some time. And again, it's an ambush resolution. If she had wished to put such a resolution for council for proper consideration, she had every opportunity to do so in the last month or the last 2 months since this was last discussed, and she hasn't done so. And I think that it's completely out of order that this ambush resolution be put before council, obviously with Councillor Vidal, Councillor Facio, and Councillor Jackson in agreement on everything they do. It's a fait accompli, and therefore it's.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor Wood.
It
on those
requires-
Comments, please, sir.
It requires discussion, and it's not going to get adequate discussion at the last minute tonight, and I think it's completely out of order. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business arising from the minutes?
Point of order, Mayor Wood, please.
Any other business
Point
arising?
of order, Mayor Wood.
Any other business arising?
Calling point of order, Mayor Wood.
Counselor Vidal, if you want to keep interrupting the meetings,
I'm calling point of order, Mayor
what
Wood.
is your point of order,
The
Counselor?
point of order is that this agenda item in my motion follows under business arising from the minutes of the December 18th meeting. I am making a motion related to the adopted tree program. That motion has been seconded. There has been some discussion on it. It needs to go forward. Thank you.
Any other business arising from the minutes?
Please,
Counselor Vidal,
you need to raise a point of order, Mayor Wood.
Counselor Vidal. Is there any other business?
Yes, Mayor Wood, as per procedure bylaw. Page 8, section J, the mayor presiding member, or any member through the mayor presiding member may call a point of order to a member who is speaking. When such action is taken, the mayor or presiding member shall immediately suspend debate, and the member in question shall refrain from speaking until the mayor or the presiding member determines the point of order.
The point of order was called, sir. The answer was given. It's
What-
out of order. That's the decision. Next order, Counselor Fassy, you do not have.
And
Counselor
I will-
Fassy,
Mayor Wood,
Counselor-
I am appealing your ruling. And that does
is
call
Counselor,
for a vote.
Counselor,
We'll let the chair.
Counselor Vidal, is the chair abstained?
I'm appealing,
Counselor Vidal,
Mayor Wood, I'm appealing your ruling.
Counselor Vidal, you're not listening. Could you please listen? Is the chair sustained? That's the motion on the table. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails. With Counselor Facio, Counselor Jackson, and the opposed. Carry on. Your appeal's denied. Any further business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, I have some business arising from the minutes. On page 2. Under section 131 of the charter, the mayor may require council's reconsideration of a matter. And I wish to recall item 5 under page 2. And the motion reads, is that Curtis Genest be appointed as the fire chief. That was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Allen. Is there any further discussion on that? Counselor Allen?
For clarification, Mr. Mayor, are you asking us to vote on that same motion a second time tonight?
The second time tonight?
Well, no,
That is not the
to
same.
re-vote on that same motion. Is this what you're putting in front of us tonight?
This is a recall of the motion. So the motion that's on the floor is that Curtis Jennis be appointed as fire chief.
Okay,
So that's already been moved by myself and seconded by Counselor Allen.
okay.
So we're into discussion. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Ready, Counselor Allen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think it's very important that this council support the Harrison Hot Springs Volunteer Fire Department, that we give them all of the equipment and money that they need to perform this important function in the community, and that we allow them to select their own leadership. And my understanding is that they have selected Mr. Genest to be the fire chief and their leader. And I am fully in support of allowing them to run the fire department as they see fit. They are volunteers after all. And I am very much in favor of Mr. Genest, who has been selected by the rank and file to be the fire chief, taking that position permanently rather than just being the acting fire chief as he is today. So I'm very much in favor of your resolution to appoint Mr. Genest as the Harrison Hot Springs Volunteer Fire Department Fire Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Counselor Fascio.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Wood. As a extremely strong supporter of the fire department for 27 years, I think this discussion is discussion of personnel and should be held in a closed meeting. We're dealing with personnel here, and I'm not mentioning any names. And I think it's, and Councillor Allen has mentioned about the fire department selecting their own. Well, that would have to be a change, I believe, in the bylaw as well. So it's not just a matter of ticking off a box. Certain things have to be done properly in a procedural manner. If we're going to carry on in a correct way of having personnel selected to perform their duties for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. One thing that puzzles me about this is I see here sent by Councillor Allen, appointment of fire chief by in-camera council meeting. And everybody got a copy of this, and it goes on here to talk about the gentleman we want as fire chief. Now, this is supposed to be in camera, not out to the public. But this isn't, we all got it. And I'm actually quite surprised that you didn't deal with this, because this shouldn't happen. This information right here was supposed to be in camera. What it's not is public. I know we're gonna deal with it tonight. I know the gentleman, we all want him as fire chief. That isn't the question. You can't have it both ways. You can't treat us one way and this guy the other way.
Counselor Allen.
No, but it's true.
Counselor.
I'm so tired of
Sorry,
it, your Mayor.
Counselor Jackson.
We're not getting a thing. I've said this before. You can't continually take sides.
Counselor Jackson. Counselor Allen.
Yes, one more comment, Mr. Mayor. I have been supporting the Harrison Fire Department for 43 years, Mr. Fascio, as mayor and councillor, and
Point of order, Mayor Wood, I am a councillor for the village of Harrison Hot Springs, and I would like to be addressed in that way, if I may. Thank you.
sorry, what does he want now, Mr. Mayor? What does he want?
Order, please, Counselor Fascio. Counselor Allen, just
I was just trying to say, Mr. Mayor, is
why, just,
that
just,
the
just
fundamental error that
why-
was,
order a second here. Why am I hearing voices?
Could we please get on with the agenda?
Do you have your telephone?
I just turned it on.
You have your phone still
Would you
on?
please get on with the agenda?
Counselor Jackson.
I'd just like to make the point, Mr. Mayor, that this is all being caused by the fact that we have departed from the tradition in Harrison Hot Springs. And the tradition is that the Harrison volunteers in the fire department choose their leader. What this council attempted to do last year was to make that person an employee and a line officer of the village. And under those rules, if you're hiring an officer, certainly the rules of confidentiality and personnel come in. But I would argue that that does not apply in a volunteer fire department, which is not a secret society. It's an open organization for anybody to be a part of. And we all know that they're open about what they do. And the error here has been to try and bring the fire chief into line underneath the CAO and the CEO as a line officer, like the finance officer, the corporate officer, etc. He is not a village employee. He is not a line officer. He is head of an independent department, and it's the responsibility of the mayor and the CAO to support him in his work in that. And that's what has gone wrong with this situation. So let's just get on and approve Mr. Genest as our fire chief and put the fire department back to a stable footing where they can happily carry on doing the good work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I think I'm speaking for all of council here that support for our fire department and their personnel is not in question. And how I see it is, this is not an issue on who should or who shouldn't be appointed as fire chief. The point I'm making is that appointment of personnel, including the fire chief, needs to go to an in-camera meeting so that council can speak freely on any positive or any concerns they may have. I take a level of exception to Councillor Allen's comment that the fire department is an independent body. They are not. They are part of the staffing and they are part of the village staff. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to comment on a few of your comments here. This is a recall of a motion which was done in the last regular open meeting of council. So this isn't a closed meeting. This is not, has nothing to do with a closed meeting. And I remind council that it's council's, it's the ultimate responsibility to appoint whoever we wish as the fire chief. It's not a staff member. It is no one else. It is this council that has the authority and the responsibility to appoint the fire chief. The last council meeting, as I recall, Councillor Facio, and I could be wrong, but I thought Councillor Jackson also said that they wanted to wait till all council members were here, and it was specifically Councillor Vidal. We have all council members here today. That request is made. I know I have had emails from the council members on this matter, and Councillor Vidal is the only councillor that actually had requested that it be in a closed door meeting for her own reasons. I can understand absolutely what Councillor Vidal is stating, but this has gone around the table. This is now interfering, I believe, in my opinion, is interfering with the operation of the fire hall. It's a simple decision. Let's make this decision. Let's move on. The closed door meeting that was requested by Councillor Facio and I believe Councillor Jackson and also Councillor Vidal was called. It was postponed, as I said earlier, because we did not have a full complement of council, which was council's wish. The full complement of council is here as of tonight. So I have recalled this question. We can go into a closed meeting and we can have this discussion. That's what the closed meeting is for. Council here, just a few minutes ago, denied the right to go into a closed meeting of council. So you've been given the opportunity to go into a closed door meeting if you wish. You still have a chance at the end of the meeting, if council wishes, to go back and continue on into the closed door meeting. I would hope that we could just bring this to an end and let the fire department continue on. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor that Curtis Dennis be appointed as fire chief? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Vidal and Facio opposed. Thank you. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is consent agenda.
Do I have a mover for consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by, do I have a seconder, Councillor? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion on the consent agenda, receipt. Call the question, all in favor? Nobody opposed, passes unanimously. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is delegations and petitions, and there are none this evening. The same goes for the next two orders of business, which would have been correspondence and business arising from correspondence. Moving on to reports of councillors, committees, committee of the whole and commissions.
Thank you, Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. On the January the 5th, I attended the memory service for the late Chief of Seabird Island, Clement Eugene Seymour. It was a wonderful turnout from family and friends and neighbors. I would say between 500 and 600 people were there. And he was a great chief. Both Agassiz and Harrison were served very well. So God bless him. He had a good send-off. I have a few stats here, just like to read out in regards to our fire department and the search and rescue. I'll get it right here. Fire department, the 2023 stats, as I read them, was 106 calls, 3,500 hours of training. The firefighter of the year was Shane Rutledge. Volunteer of the year was Hilary van der Yik. Most improved firefighter was Chris Suderman. Rookie of the year, and I apologize if I don't pronounce this quite rightly, but Bukari Mohammed Singh. That was from our great fire department of all the calls that they did last year, and I congratulate all of them for their outstanding dedication to the community. On the search and rescue, I beg your pardon, I left 3 out of the fire department. There were milestone years awards presented. 5 years was to Nicolette Justing. 5 years to now Chief Curtis Janest, and Captain Alex Maslin for 15 years. There were awards that were given out for their long service. Congratulations to all of them. And on the Ken Harrison Search and Rescue, they had 26 members. Incidents were 66. Incident hours were 2,122. Training hours, 3,575. Event hours, 1,653. And total volunteer hours were 7,350. Again, another group of these volunteers who put their lives at risk to help people out in distress. And I congratulate all of them and wish them all the best for 2024. Thank you. That's on that. on the Regional Corporate Services Committee of January the 11th for the Lower Mainland local government, if there is any resolutions that would require a letter of support from the regional district, they should be in before February the 28th. Invasive weed control in 2023 year ending. Get the page here. Fraser Valley Regional District Invasive Weed Control Program targets high priority provincially listed noxious weeds in Abbotsford, Chilliwack and Electoral Area C, which is us. Hogweed, wild chervil, tansy ragwort and knotweed are important weeds to control in our region due to the negative impacts they can have on agricultural production, health, safety, infrastructure, and the environment. The FERD program consists of weed control treatments, monitoring, mapping, data management, and public education. A special presentation was provided on July the 18th, 23 by the Fraser Valley Indigenous to municipal mowing crews to aid with identification of invasive weeds and to share best practices to prevent further spread. Operation plan for 24 looks forward to continuing to work with the FVISS. Crews will again monitor, control all public giant hogweed, tansy ragwort and wild chervil sites, as well as priority knotweed sites. Efforts to control the spread of knotweed will continue in 2024. All sites in 23 will be revisited, monitored for regrowth and retreated. And on the BC Electric fare collection, this is something that's is happening in Europe for many years. Early this year, BC Trans began the transition of BC Transit systems around the province to UMO, an electronic fare collection system which replaces paper fare products with the UMO mobile app and reloadable UMO card. In collaboration with municipal and regional government staff, BC Transit will be leading the region's 3 transit systems, including FVRD, Agassiz, Harrison, Hope, and the FVX Central Fraser Valley and Chilliwack in transitioning to the new service. And there will be more public education on this. Thank you, Mayor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. December 12th, I attended a C2C meeting. On December 13th, I attended Changing of the Seasons ceremony at Mountain Institution, which was hosted by the Indigenous Wellness Committee. They hold these ceremonies twice a year in the spring and in the fall. January 5th, I also had the pleasure of attending the celebration of life for former Chief Clem Seymour at Seabird Island. Chief Seymour was indeed a friend to our village and a strong voice at our C2C forum meetings. Having served on Seabird Island Council from 1995 and as chief from April 2007 to April 2020. I want to express my deepest condolences to his family and all of Seabird Island, and request that a letter of condolences be forwarded to Seabird Island on behalf of our village council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I got kind of a short notice for the Chamber of Commerce meeting that I was supposed to attend, but I had prior engagement and wasn't able to make that meeting. But I will catch up with them at some point in the future. Just in response to Councillor Facio, I would just like to say how horrified I am that we still have large colonies of Japanese knotweed on village public land within the village of Harrison Hot Springs. And it's all right to hear these reports, but if we are not eliminating the knotweed on the land that we own and operate as a village, that leaves us without the moral authority to insist that private property owners get rid of their knotweed. And you can get rid of knotweed organically without chemicals if you just keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, because I've done it on my property. So there's no excuse in my mind for us, the village of Harrison Hot Springs, to be playing host to large colonies of Japanese knotweed, particularly alongside the Miami River. Because what is happening is the beavers are going into the knotweed
Councillor,
and cutting it and putting it in the river. And those shoots are floating all over the place and they're alive
Councillor Allen.
and it's spreading.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Okay, I know I wasn't supposed to give a knotweed report, but I just think it's terrible that we're not dealing with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Allen, or Jackson, sorry.
Nothing to report, your worship, except that we're very happy that our hummingbirds survived the cold weather and they're back feeding, and certainly hope the weather gets better for them.
Thank you, Councillor. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is mayor's report.
Have nothing to report. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is report of the corporate officer regarding disposal of surplus items and equipment policy amendment.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. So the recommendation is that council approve the amendments to disposal of surplus items and equipment policy 1.11. Summary is to present an amended policy to council. At the November 20th, 2023 regular council meeting, council passed the following motion: that policy 1.11 be amended by removing the option to use any tender process and by limiting all such disposals to a public auction to be conducted by the chief executive officer, thus ensuring complete transparency and maximum value for village assets being sold off. Staff have made draft amendments to policy 1.11 as shown in the attached red line version of the policy.
I'd like to move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion?
My only reservation on this, Mr. Mayor, is that having passed that resolution, it is my opinion that we adopted the policy at that date. And so I think that the date of adoption should be shown as the date when council actually approved it, not the date at when it came back as being rewritten in the new form. Thank you.
Was that a motion, an amendment, sir, Councillor?
No, it's just, I just find the process a little bit disconnected.
Thank you. Further discussion? None. Call the question. So that's council approve the amendments to the disposal of the surplus items and equipment policy 1.11. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Facio and the mayor opposed. Next item, please.
The next item is report of operations manager regarding the Miami Creek North and South Bridge repair.
Thanks. Identified in the village's 2019 road, bridge, and active transportation plan, 2 vehicular bridge abutments along McCrooms Drive are in poor condition and in need of repair. The existing abutments on both bridges are currently being retained by deteriorated wooden piles, planks, and steel cable. Ongoing deterioration of the wooden bridge abutments of the North Bridge caused settlement of the abutments to accelerate, resulting in a break in the sanitary sewer main in April 2023, which has been temporarily repaired. The existing water main and sanitary sewer force main are presently secured to the old wood deck of the former bridge, which is located beneath the current concrete bridge deck. To remediate this, the water main and sanitary sewer force main will need to be relocated and secured to the outside of the main bridge structure. Sanitary force main of the McCombs Bridge South was repaired in spring of 2023 by securing it to the west side of the bridge. The abutments on the south bridge are still in need of repair. It should be noted that the main structure of the bridges were reconstructed between 2011 and 2012, so they do not require any repairs. After the sewer break in 2023, staff engaged a team of civil, geotechnical, and environmental consultants. The consultants reviewed the current conditions of the bridge abutments and provide preliminary recommendations to repair the abutments and relocate the existing utilities to the main bridge structure with minimizing the environmental impacts to the Miami River as the key consideration. Staff suggests engaging civil, geotechnical, and environmental consultants to provide design, permitting, and contract administration. If council approves the recommendation, the McCombs Bridge North Sanitary Force Main and water main relocation will be designed, tendered, and completed first, as the environmental permitting for abutment repairs may take over a year to achieve approval. On March 16th, 2023, the village received a BC government grant under the Growing Communities Fund for $1,256,000 for capital and infrastructure projects. Consultant and construction costs for this project could be funded through this grant as the repair work fits under the grant requirements. In spring of 2023, $120,000 of the Growing Community Fund was used to complete the sanitary sewer line repairs on the South Bridge. Accordingly, $1,136,000 of this funding remains. The recommendation is that council authorize staff to use the remaining funds from the Growing Community Funds for all necessary repair work to the McCombs Drive North and South Bridges.
Do I have a mover?
The recommendation, Mayor Wood.
Actually, moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on this? Councillor Allen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I really don't know where to start in this, except to say that when we had government money to create a detour route on Macomb Drive for the occasions when Hot Springs Road was blocked by various events, we got funding from the province to rebuild both those bridges as wooden bridges, but built strong enough to handle logging trucks. Because logging trucks were part of the traffic that had to go around by Macomb Drive when Hot Springs Road between the village center and McPherson was closed. What I don't understand is why an engineer, and I hope there were engineers involved, thought it was a good idea to put a heavy concrete deck on very old and aging and apparently rotting wooden structures as the head walls of the two bridges. That was never going to work. So I hesitate to support this recommendation because I still think that if you're still going to be using the wooden pilings, which we can't re-drive now because we have the concrete deck on top of the bridge, I don't understand from an engineering perspective where you get the stable head walls that you need to support a bridge structure if all you have is old wooden pilings driven into the dirt below the concrete bridge. I think that this needs a rethink. And if we're going to spend any money on these two bridges, we need to stop spending money in a way that is doomed to failure because the supporting structure is never going to be good enough for the weight of concrete decks on top of wooden bridges, in my opinion. And I've been involved in a few bridge projects. So I just don't see this as being a good idea. I think we need to start afresh and think this thing through. The other thing that concerns me is that the Ministry of Environment designates the Miami River as the flood channel in case of overland flows from Agassiz, and they have demanded of us that we keep that channel as clear as possible. But underneath these bridges on Macomb Drive, we still have the old bridge structure, including the decks. And I don't understand how we can do that and still say that we're providing flow capacity under these bridges. I just think it needs a whole rethink. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Well, I'm glad this has come forward, and I thank the operations manager for his report. It's been long waiting to get these bridges. This was an unfortunate situation when the money came forward with the previous council and mayor a few years back, but they were not allowed for whatever reason to remove the wood abutments, and the bridge had to be built because of the state of the wooden bridge. So that's what happened. We've had an engineering report regarding the state of the bridge, and it needs replacing. The photographs show that it does need replacing. So I think this is a good news to get, because as as we all know, we only have two roads, Hot Springs Road and the McCombs Road, Eagle McCombs, that can be used for whatever reason. And when we were doing the culvert on Hot Springs Road, McCombs was the main route in and out of Harrison. And there was a Bailey Bridge that had to be put there. That's another story. I won't get involved in that. But I want to thank again the operations manager for his report, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor,
Question on the motion,
Councillor-
please.
Councillor Jackson, sorry. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Vidal. Thank you. I just have a question to our operations manager on here. My understanding is the first step, what we're looking at is just the water main and the actual sanitary sewer, the pressure line. Can you help me? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That would be the first part in the process. Environmental permitting takes a bit of time, so we'd want to address the major concerns first.
So the plan is to deal with those two services and then to deal with the abutment at a later date? Or is there sufficient funds in this to look at the abutment or?
Yes, the Class D estimate that we've received fits under the grant that we have. But as a consultant, start working on the environmental permitting for doing the abutments, then we'd focus on doing the utility relocation first.
So I guess just one last question, I guess. So the amount of money that we're talking here, so the 1,136,000, is that anticipated that will be used for the entire project, like phase 1 and phase 2, or we don't know at this time?
It was a Class D estimate we got, but yes, that would be the intent.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
It was a Class D estimate that we have, so we still would need to refine the cost, but that would be the intent to use it for phase 1 and 2.
Thank you. Ready to call the question, all in favor? The question's already been called, Councillor. I'll call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Councillor Allen opposed. Next item, please.
The next item is report of Community Services Manager regarding Active Communities Grant Program.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. The BC Alliance for Healthy Living Society has a call for applications for their Active Communities Grant Program. The purpose of this grant program is to support people in BC of all ages and abilities to increase their awareness of and access to community-based physical activity, sport, and recreation program. The funding is intended to create physical and social environments within communities that encourage regular physical activity. The importance of using Memorial Hall for community functions and increasing community gatherings or gathering areas has been highlighted by the community in the past during the Age-Friendly Action Plan research process. There are limited community programs in Harrison Hot Springs, and while it is not a long distance to reach Agassiz, the village recognizes the importance of having accessible programming within our community, especially for those who may not have access to personal vehicles for transportation. Harrison Hot Springs has a diverse range of residents, with the average age being 51 years old. 10.8% of the population is between the ages of 0 to 14 years, according to the most recent census data. This grant program presents an opportunity to implement pilot recreation programs within the community to increase accessibility and promote healthy, active lifestyles for adults and families. Memorial Hall is an ideal location for scheduled, structured physical activities requiring limited equipment. Classes such as yoga and other recreational activities could be taught there by a certified contract instructor for both families, such as parent and taught, as well as adult or senior classes. With this funding, the programs and equipment, such as yoga mats or blocks, could be offered to the public for free. If well attended, the programming could continue to be offered after the grant period ends at a low-cost break-even registration fee for participants. Nearby municipalities have adopted the Live 5210 initiative into their communities to promote healthy choices for children and work towards building healthy communities. The Active Communities Grant Program could also support the implementation of a Live 5210 initiative by means of displaying the messaging, ensuring all parks and municipal facilities have water fountains and water bottle filling stations, and implementing a Live 5210 playground box at a strategic location within the village, such as Spring Park. There are no additional financial considerations associated with this report. And the recommendation is that staff be authorized to apply for the Active Communities Grant Program for funding up to a maximum of $50,000.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Counselor Facio, seconded by Counselor Vidal. Discussion? Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'm very much in support of this recommendation, and thank you to our Community Services Manager for bringing this forward. I do have a question, and through you, Mayor, to our Community Services Manager. Should we be successful in the grant application, will you be engaging residents for their input into recreational opportunities from a wide range in age? And are you considering doing this through a committee or through a survey, or have we got that far yet? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to Councillor Vidal. I would definitely be interested in doing some consultation to identify what programs would be of interest to the community members based on the space that we have. I think a survey may be the best option. As far as the grant application goes, my initial thoughts were to provide some options for what those programs could look like as examples and then refine if successful.
Thank you. And one other question, Mayor Wood, to our Community Services Manager. You indicated that if the programming is well attended, you can continue to offer it after the grant period ends. Do we have a time for when that grant period time would end? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to Councillor Vidal. My concept behind it is that if we were successful in the grant, that these programs could be offered completely free to community members. One of the initiatives behind offering the grant is that they do want the programs to be sustainable. So that would be where the importance of offering programs that the community is looking for would lie. And then trying to continue to grow on that and base the cost of the program around basically just the cost to cover the contract instructor would be the idea in the long term.
Thank you. I'm excited about this potential program. I do think it's needed. And I do look forward to having some level of input from our residents of all ages, but very much in support of the recommendation, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Allen, and then Counselor Facio.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think it's good that we are thinking about all the age groups in our community. I'm a little bit surprised at the the statistics that suggest that 10.8% of our population is between 0 and 14. That's about 200 kids. I don't see 200 kids in the village when I see the school bus in the morning. It's not 200 kids there, and even with little ones. So I think that there are quite a few less than that. I also think that any such programs are ultimately successful if they are grown on a grassroots basis, with the community members deeply involved in doing what they deem to be necessary for the community. And this hall, I dearly want to see this hall better utilized than it is at the moment. And it was very well utilized when we had the Harrison Hot Springs Recreation Commission, a group of volunteers who organized events and games and activities in this hall for all age groups, from young mothers and their toddlers all the way through to senior citizens and their card games. And I would very much like to see the Harrison Hot Springs Recreation Commission revived to include all of the current activity groups, such as the tennis players, the picklers, the hikers, the walkers. And I think they could come under that umbrella, and it would be much more successful if we got the community involved at that grassroots level. The other thing that I find discouraging about the use of this hall is that the current council policy is that a local group can rent the hall for $50, which is reasonable. But then they require that you have insurance. And that insurance for a 1 hour meeting in an evening with 20 people costs $250. And I know that because I paid for that back during the last election. And I was horrified that the hall was only $50, but the required insurance was $250. And I still don't understand why we require the insurance. So if we wish to make the hall more utilized by the community, we need to remove those barriers and make it available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Facio and then Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Thank you. Thank you to our community services manager for this grant program. It's a great idea. I will agree. It'll be great to see more activities used in the Memorial Hall. The existing Harrison School, I believe, is now capacity. They've actually had to take over one of the portables that was for the daycare because of the extra children. So, and I think the capacity is about 110, 120 plus the high school kids as well. They're picked up by the bus to go to the high school. So that 120 is probably below it's probably higher than 120, I would say. The programs are great. The concept of the Recreation Commission, I was on it for many years, was a great idea at the time. It did afford several programs, but didn't cover the area of programs that this grant program is covering here. Eventually, the Recreation Commission became more of a sort of a smaller group of people, more relative to holding some fundraisers. A choir was a very important part of that, but all the hiking groups and they all run their own shows. They do, but I think this whole idea is great to get people involved in their families in the community, and kudos to the manager for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Your Worship, I certainly support this. I just like the idea of moving forward rather than looking back all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. You're ready to call the question. Ready to call the question, councillor.
Okay.
Call the question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. Nobody passes unanimously. Nobody opposed. Next item, please.
The next item is report of Community Services Manager regarding local government infrastructure planning grant program.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. The Village's 2023 strategic plan highlights the importance of updating the village's master plans. The current water master plan dates back to 2015 and has been identified by council as requiring an update. The province's infrastructure planning grant program allows the opportunity for a portion of the costs associated with obtaining the water master plan to be covered if successful in our application. The province of British Columbia's infrastructure planning grant program assists local governments in developing well-planned community infrastructure. The province of British Columbia's infrastructure planning grant program will provide a maximum of $10,000 for each approved project. The grant available through this program is up to a maximum of $10,000. The remainder of costs associated with obtaining the water master plan would be funded from development cost charges. High-level cost estimate has been provided by a local engineering firm with a budgetary value of $200,000. This recommendation today is that council authorize staff to apply for the local government infrastructure planning grant program for up to a maximum of $10,000 to go towards obtaining a water master plan.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Bidell, seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion? Counselor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would really like to see the current water master plan from 2015. Because I think that if that is going to be the basis of our grant application, we need to be sure that that's a viable water master plan. So without that background information, I'm not comfortable in giving carte blanche to move ahead on that basis. If there's something fundamentally wrong with that master plan, such as the source of the water, then it needs to be revisited. So I will not be voting for this. Although I could be persuaded to if I was able to get a copy of that water master plan and find it acceptable. Thank you.
Counselor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I believe this is just for the grant application. That's the important part, to move ahead with that. Thank you.
Counselor Bidell. No. Okay. So ready to call the question. Then council authorize staff to apply for the local government infrastructure planning grant program up to a maximum of 10,000 to go towards obtaining a water master plan. Can call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Passes with Counselor Allen opposed. Next item, please.
The next item is report of our Community Services Manager regarding Spirit Trail maintenance update.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. At the October 16/18, 2023 regular council meeting, the following motion was passed. That staff be directed to report back to council at the next regular meeting of council with recommendations on the prescribed treatment of the Spirit Trail as per the 2017 Wildfire Master Plan, not to be exceed $30,000 and to be funded internally. At the November 20th, 2023 regular council meeting, staff presented council with the option of waiting for an updated community wildfire resiliency plan prior to completing any fuel management in the village. Council provided further direction and the following motion was passed. That staff be authorized to move forward with fuel treatment for the Spirit Trail. The Spirit Trail is located within the East Sector lands, which are managed by the Fraser Valley Regional District. Staff reached out to FVRD to advise them that the village wishes to complete fuel treatment within the trail. FVRD provided a contact responsible for the Crown land who would need to approve the project. Staff are awaiting a response from the province at the time this report was written. Staff recently met with representatives from BA Blackwell and Associates who completed the 2017 Wildfire Master Plan regarding fuel treatment within Spirit Trail. Their foresters can write a prescription of what work should be done, which would then be contracted out for completion. Staff received correspondence from BA Blackwell and Associates on January 10th, 2024, after they were able to perform a site visit and provide feedback. The email is attached to this report for review. In the email, they've highlighted that the area required for treatment is 2 hectares, and it is not possible to successfully complete a fuel treatment for $15,000 per hectare. Their email also indicates that due to the bird nesting window nearing in the spring, operational work would not be able to take place until the fall. Furthermore, there are permit requirements and consultation with neighboring Indigenous groups that would need to take place before any work in the area can start. For financial considerations, Council previously approved $30,000 to fund this project. BA Blackwell and Associates estimates their cost to develop the fuel prescription to be approximately $6,000. Their experience in this field that $30,000 is not sufficient to successfully complete a fuel treatment in this area. Grant funds may be available through the Community Resiliency Investment Program and the Forest Enhancement Society of BC Wildfire Risk Reduction Funding Program. So the recommendations are that staff be authorized to proceed with prescription development for fuel treatment work in the Spirit Trail, and that staff seek additional grant funding sources once the prescription is developed to be able to complete fuel treatment to a fuel management standard for all costs above the originally budgeted $30,000.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Vidal, seconded by Counselor Facio. Discussion? Counselor Vidal, and then Counselor Allen next.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to our Community Services Manager, you indicated that Blackwell and Associates indicated that there would be permit requirements and consultation with neighboring Indigenous groups. Knowing full well that permit requirements, either from the BC government, takes considerable time, and also consultation with Indigenous groups does take time. Are we able to go ahead and start with that permitting application and that consultation now, so that when it does come time to the fall to do the fuel management, we'd be ready to go? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to Councillor Vidal. That is my understanding of the process and how it could work. Absolutely. We just got this email back, so I wanted to bring this report forward for a bit further direction. I believe that having the fuel prescription is the first step, as they are the forest professionals who can identify all the factors that we need to consider and the permits process that we need to go through to make sure that it is done properly and according to all the standards.
Good. Thank you for that clarification.
Counselor Allen, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you to staff. This purple area that we have on the map, the illustration, is that 10 meters wide or 20 meters wide? Is it 10 meters each side of the trail, or a total of 10 meters being 5 each side of the trail?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to Councillor Allen. When I discussed what we were looking for, I did say 10 meters on either side, but I can definitely confirm that with them to ensure that that is what is reflected in the image.
Thank you. Well, my first concern, Mr. Mayor, is that this trail is not a village project. It's a project of the Fraser Valley Regional District. They have come into our community and they have gone on to Crown land and they have built this trail, and that's great. I've been asking for and have not yet received any clarification as to what tenure they have on that land. The land that they have the East Sector trails on is certainly Crown land, provincially owned land. And normally when you're on Crown land, you have a permit to occupy or some kind of a lease or a tenure issued by the provincial government. We, being the village within which this is all taking place, should have a copy of that document. And when we do have a copy of that document, I imagine that it probably says things about maintaining the trail and the land area in a safe fashion, which would in fact make it a responsibility of FVRD and not the village of Harrison Hot Springs. So clearing the each side of the trail, either 5 meters each side or 10 meters, might be good for the occasional dropped cigarette, which hasn't happened yet. But it doesn't really deal with the issue of all the fuel in all of that 400 acres that we have lying to the east of Macomb Drive. But my biggest concern, Mr. Mayor, is that in all of the maps that we have about the fire hazard in Harrison Hot Springs, the actual area of greatest concern and the highest risk is not the Spirit Trail itself. It's an area of land, and if I can show this just for the audience, it's an area of land that lies north of the Spirit Trail, between the Spirit Trail and the Miami River in this area. And that is the area that's marked red on the fire hazard maps. And that is the area that myself and others who are concerned about wildfire in the village have been advocating needs to get cleaned out and cleaned up, not the trail itself. The trail itself isn't really an issue because what we can do is when the fire hazard rating reaches a certain point, we simply require the Fraser Valley Regional District to close the trail and keep people out of the woods when the fire risk is high. But what is really needed is not this cleaning up the trail. It's the hot spot north of the trail between that and the Miami River, and that is not being addressed in this particular application. So in my mind, we have the science, we've had the surveys and the report. We know where the high risk area is, and it's not the Spirit Trail, it's north of the Spirit Trail. In that area of woodland north of the trail, close to Miami River, that's what we need to be dealing with, not the Spirit Trail itself, which is more manageable because we can close it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Facio, and then
Thank you, Mayor Wood. First of all, I did announce some time back when I read the report out from the FVRD regarding fire risks that they do consult with the BC fire departments in regarding to closing of any trails. It's not just one trail that they have, there's many trails plus the other provincial parks that they maintain. Now, I'm not sure whether an Indigenous group's assessment is needed again, because when the East Sector lands were created, the Stahelis had their personnel go in there and look at that whole area. So they have done a report on that. So I'm not sure if that's needed again. So that could be, that's somewhere in the files. That could be looked at to save that reassessment of that. I believe that BC Trails is what comes under these sector lands, and that's when they applied for a grant, the regional district, to help to create some of those trails who they applied to. So being that that's the most heavily used trails in the village, I believe the first 6 months that it opened, there were 6,000 people that went through there. They do have a monitor. And it makes sense to me that maybe that should probably be the first area to be cleared because it has the most use. I mean, the whole 400 acres isn't going to become done overnight, as we know. It's going to take some time and a lot of money to take care of everything. But if we can start somewhere and move forward, I think this is a good report, and I'm in favor of the recommendation. Thank you.
thank you. Councillor Jackson.
I'm in favor of the resolution also. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to comment on it. I mean, the Spirit Trail here, the reason it was chosen was we weren't going to wait for a year for the resiliency plan. It was an attempt to at least get started with fire smart initiatives in the village here. I mean, that's where this started. So it's come around, it's come back to council a few times in a few different ways. And I think what's interesting is when I read the correspondence from the forester, they have an option too. And I mean, the first part we're saying is there's not enough money and there's not enough time to do Spirit Trail with the 10 meters. And it's my understanding it's 10 meters on each side of the trail. And that is to, at the water tower, and it is only 0.6 of a hectare. And I don't believe, and I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it requires the First Nations consultation. We, I guess, already own this land, so it may be something which maybe we should change our direction. You got to remember that who wrote this email are also the same people that did the urban or the wildfire management plan back in 2017. So just maybe a question to our community services manager. Is option two something that would possibly speed this process up? Again, we were looking for something that can be done this year, but it sounds like the birds are coming in and we really don't have much time.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Yes, I know it was one of those environmental aspects that I had no idea about until they informed me as well, the birds cycles. But I can definitely ask them a few more questions about that point there, changing the site to one on municipal land. For example, fuel treatment unit number 2, water tower, and ask them if any of these concerns that they listed for a timeline would be a concern for that one. If you'd like me to report back on that.
So it does sound like it is possible. So if I could maybe make an amendment to the motion on the table here, is that instead of being Spirit Trail, is that we refer this back to staff to look at, I don't know what that noise was, but to refer this back to staff to look at option 2 to see if this can be expedited. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Refer this? It's an amendment.
I'll second the motion for discussion, Mr. Mayor.
You, seconded by Councillor Allen. Further discussion on that? So this is just on the amendment that it gets referred back to staff to look at option 2, which is per the email of January the 10th. Call the question. All in
Oh.
favor?
Speaking to the motion, Mr. Mayor, or have you called the question?
Call the question, and this is just.
Well,
on
I
the-
have a point of information then, perhaps.
No, Juice, the question's been called. This is just to refer this back to staff to look at option, the amendment is referred to staff to look at option 2 per their letter or their email dated January the 10th, which is to look at the water tower. So are you ready? So I call the question. All in favor of that? Opposed?
I'm
There-
opposed, Mr. Mayor.
So I didn't see the hand, so it looks like the motion passes with Councillor Allen opposed. Thank you.
Can I explain why I'm opposed, Mr. Mayor? No?
No. This is, sorry, Council.
Pardon me, Mayor Wood, I just want to verify that
Yes.
the original motion to put the effort towards Spirit Trail is now off the table. We're putting it towards the municipal property around the water tower.
It's, I wouldn't say it's off the table, but I would say though that, I mean, this has been referred back to staff to look at option 2 because of the timeline and the area and the or the First Nations, just to do the whole purpose of this motion of doing the Spirit Trail and spending the $30,000 was while we're waiting for the resiliency plan and all that other process, which is going to take easily another year to get done. So it sounds like we don't have time here to even do the Spirit Trail. We have nowhere near sufficient money. And by the time we get all of our First Nations approvals, if it is needed or not, again, the option which is in this email from the forester, professional forester, and they suggest us that we look at the wastewater, or sorry, at the water tower. And it's an area, much smaller area, 0.6 hectares.
Of course. Okay, so I just want to make sure that staff understands that we are still looking at preparing a prescription plan for Spirit Trail and the water tower?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to add a point of information. It seems from this report that the fact that the Spirit Trail lies on provincial crown land causes a lot of delay, because the provincial crown ownership then requires up to 15 or 16 consultations with different native bands, and that's going to take years. But the fact is that we, the village of Harrison Hot Springs, we own 80 acres of land alongside Macomb Drive that is not crown land and that doesn't require that consultation. We have the 80 acres that I got as part of the future park, plus the 1 acre opposite the end of Chestnut Street, which we got as a future well site. Both of those parcels are in the high-risk area, and we, the village of Harrison Hot Springs, being the owners and the managers of that land and that woodland, have not only the right, but the obligation, I believe, to go in there and to do what is necessary to reduce the fire hazard. We don't have to consult with anybody. We can go ahead on those lands that we own, just like you're talking about doing around the water tower, and do what we need to do. So that should be part of our consideration in making the decision about where to apply money to reduce fire risk from accumulated fuel. Thank you.
I think it's important just to clarify it. So the $30,000 was again, which was outside of hiring a forester to manage all of our forests, which would include all of the different areas. So it was just an attempt to fast track an area, and it was chosen as the trail, Spirit Trail, which now has come back is not the budget does not allow for it, but we don't even have the time to go through all the process of it. So again, the motion now was to, again, which was passed, which was to refer it back to staff, which was to look at an alternate spot, which is where the professional forester is making an option, and that's at our water tower, which is also, I would assume, would be the same high risk area or the same high risk designation. So that does not change the Fire Smart initiative to Fire Smart the whole village as a whole. So I don't want to start getting into areas here and there, and it's just like, let's just get a little bit of an area done. You can see what it looks like. We can understand the process. We can already see the process now of all the difficulties that can be. And I'm the last one to think that because of bird nesting, which by the way is March the 1st, that the work can't happen. And that's the way it works. So again, if we want to get this done, we need to get it done very quickly. So I think it's important it's referred to staff, and so that we can be ready to go, and the intent is to get this done before March the 1st. Yeah. Next item, please.
The next item is report of Community Services Manager regarding Village of Harrison Hot Springs 75th anniversary celebration.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. At the November 24th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting, Council passed the following resolution: that staff be directed to research viable options for a 75th year anniversary celebration and report back to Council. May 27th, 2024 will mark the 75th anniversary of incorporation of the Village of Harrison Hot Springs on the traditional territory of Stahelis. In May of 1999, multiple events over several days were held in the village to commemorate the 50th anniversary of incorporation. These events included a heritage walking tour, community open house, a concert presented by the Harrison Festival Society, a Saturday morning parade, a Jubilee Church celebration, a time capsule ceremony, and a school carnival. Ending the week with a Jubilee Ball held here in Memorial Hall and a closing ceremony at the Fire Hall. In September of 2022, a community event similar to those hosted at the 50th anniversary was hosted by the Village of Harrison Hot Springs in appreciation of the fire department. This event took place in the overflow parking lot area behind the village office and included live music and entertainment, bouncy castles, food trucks, and more. The cost to put on this event totaled $10,843. Staff have compiled some ideas to celebrate the 75th anniversary and would like to seek feedback from residents to gauge community interest and support before plans are finalized. Current ideas include a photo contest leading up to the 75th anniversary, 75th anniversary commemorative street banners, and an event similar to the 2022 Fire Department Appreciation Event. At this time, staff is proposing a one-day rain or shine event to be held in the overflow parking lot on Monday, May 27th, 2024. The village's budget has an allocation of $5,000 for community events, which was not used last year. Given the increase in costs associated to vendors and supplies, staff is recommending that the community events budget be increased in the 2024 to $15,000 to fund this event. And there are two recommendations for council today. The first is that staff be authorized to seek community feedback regarding proposed ideas for the village's 75th anniversary celebration event, and that the community event budget be increased to $15,000 for the 2024 financial plan.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion? Councillor Facio.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor Wood. This is wonderful. Celebrating our 75 years. I had the honor of organizing this with a former councillor, Graham, for the 50th anniversary, and it was a wonderful week of celebrations. I suggest, it's just suggestions I'm throwing out there. Would this, through you, Mayor Wood, to staff, would this have the food vendors and music and children's events as the previous one?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to Councillor Facio. That is sort of our initial brainstorming plans, but we were thinking that we would put it out to the community to get a bit more feedback and narrow down what we were thinking, as well as work within whatever budget council deems is appropriate for the year.
Thank you. If I can just throw in, it would be very nice if we could have a recognition for the oldest citizens in the community. That would be a very nice gesture. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm all in favor of celebrating the history of Harrison. It'll also be my birthday, so that's good. But I'm a little concerned about the choice of the date. According to my diary, we're having Victoria Day on the Monday before that. I was first concerned about having a party on a Monday. It's not normally a day when you can get a crowd together. Saturdays and Sundays are usually best for that. But Monday the 20th is actually the Victoria Day holiday, according to my desk diary or pocket diary. And if it was possible to hold the event as part of the Victoria Day celebration, when there are more people that are free to attend, and make it a bigger and better event, then I'd certainly suggest we consider moving it ahead by that week to May the 20th, which is the actual holiday. The offices are closed, kids are off school, a good day to celebrate both Queen Victoria's birthday and the 75th anniversary of the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Did you?
Thank you, Worship. No, I'm looking forward to this. I'm quite prepared to join any committee that the council wants to maybe get the communities in bloom, if we can get that going soon. And the idea of having it maybe on Victoria Day is not a bad idea.
Thank you. Counselor Vidal,
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'm also looking forward to this event and, Councillor Allen, I don't often, agree with you, but I'm, certainly gonna support your proposal to move it up to the, Victoria Day weekend. I do think that, that often is one of the first kickoffs of our tourist season. And we'll potential to have many more of our visitors also attend the event. So, and I would like cupcakes, please. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, do we need an amendment to our, to our community services manager, please?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I just wanted to make a comment because we did talk briefly as staff about the date, so I just wanted to say it out loud to council as well. The pay parking season begins on May 15th. So we weren't sure if that would potentially complicate if it was more of a tourist-driven event compared to mainly the resident focus as it may have on the Monday after the long weekend. So just wanted you to know that that was kind of some of our considerations, but we could always look at working with Precise and having them not enforce that day if we wanted to go that route as well. Just wanted to let you know all the information. Thank you.
So is there amendment on the table then? Counselor Vidal?
I'll make an amendment to the motion that our 75th anniversary celebration be held on Victoria Day weekend 2024. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Jackson. Further discussion on that? Ready to call the question, all in favor? Nobody is opposed, passes unanimously. That's just the amendment. And then back to the main motion, which is that staff be authorized to seek the community feedback regarding the proposed idea for the village's 75th anniversary event, and that the community event budget be increased to 15,000 for the 2024 financial plan. Again, that was already moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. I don't think there's any further discussion on that, so we'll call the
I'd just like to suggest, Mr. Mayor, that we should have a special council meeting on that date, reproducing the first meeting of the village's Board of Commissioners, which met in 1949, and that would be a little bit of a historic tableau about why the village was incorporated, largely by Colonel Naismith, Andy Naismith, who lived in the house kitty corner across the junction. So we should do a little bit more history on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I call the question, so all in favor? Nobody's opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is bylaws, and there's nothing for this item. Moving on to new business. Item A is new business from Councillor Allen regarding Zoom recordings.
Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I think my motion is self-explanatory. It basically says that when we have the Zoom recording available from these meetings, and people can't attend the meeting, they like to be able to catch up as quickly as possible. And I see no reason technically that we can't post the Zoom recording of this meeting sometime tomorrow morning before noon, so that if people are unable to attend on Monday night, they can review it on Tuesday. And
Councillor, I'm going to cut you off here. Did you make a motion here?
oh yeah, I'm making the motion. I made the, well, the motion is written, but I'll make it again if necessary. I move my recommendation in my notice of motion. Thank you.
So it's moved by Councillor Allen. Do I have a seconder for that? I'll second that. Councillor Jackson. Discussion? Now you can go, Councillor Allen. I'll let you finish your.
Well, I don't have much more to add. It's just, I think that since we have the technology, we should be using it to its maximum and make the Zoom available as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Vidal. Did I see your hand?
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'm not in support of Councillor Allen's request for adoption of the policy. His request seems to relate to a time management function from staff. And I have full confidence in our senior staff to perform this function and to manage the day-to-day runnings of the village. If there is a perceived delay in posting council meetings, there could be any number of legitimate reasons. Time management is a role and function of senior staff. It is not a role or function of council members. Thank you.
Counselor Facio,
I agree with Councillor Vital. Thank you.
further discussion on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Jackson first.
Yes, I don't mind the idea of this, but what I don't like is the idea in here, preferably before noon of the following day. That may not be possible to do that, so if it was to post it as quickly as they can do it, that might be different.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you to council. I just wanted to give council kind of the facts that are behind posting YouTube and some statistics. Longer videos can take all night to be decoded and processed by Zoom, and at the conclusion of the stream, the video can be downloaded from Zoom. If the video requires any edits, such as the video was started early inadvertently, or there are any audio issues that require backup audio to be laid over the video, the whole video has to be reprocessed, not just that particular section. The video that has to be uploaded to YouTube, which can be very slow process, YouTube service time is not reliable, and it is a free service to the village. YouTube uploading is also impacted by any network or internet issues, which may stop the process midway through which then requires the whole upload process to start over. There are no requirements for these videos to be posted on YouTube, let alone a legitimate time frame. We do it for increased accountability, transparency, and provide ease of access to the public. It is a courtesy. Our turnaround time is typically very short, ranging from 1 to a few days. A few weeks is an exception to the rule, and it is due to holiday time and office closure. Staff conducted a short review of other municipal governments' YouTube account turnaround time for council meetings and found that it was not uncommon for small municipalities not to conduct their meetings by Zoom or post to YouTube at all. Some local governments live stream their YouTube account, which also allows for real-time uploading to YouTube. However, we have experienced issues with this in the past, and with inappropriate content being shared to Zoom screen by participants. If we are to live stream, we would not be able to mitigate that. Having said that, we recently upgraded our Zoom subscription, which hopefully will make that no longer an issue. And just statistically speaking, a few communities from between 1,600 people and 3,400 people. 100 Mile does not have Zoom or YouTube. Barrier, no Zoom or YouTube. Lumbee live streams to YouTube. Ucluelet live streams to YouTube. Pemberton, Zooms and YouTubes, 2-day turnaround. Enderby, Zoom, no YouTube. Karamias, no Zoom or YouTube. Tofino live streams to YouTube. Fruitvale, no Zoom, no YouTube. And Lumbee, no Zoom, no YouTube. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I called the question. All in favor?
Can I have the motion read again, please?
So the motion is that the following policy be adopted immediately: timely posting of Zoom record of meetings, that the Zoom video of all public meetings shall be posted promptly on the village's website, preferably before noon of the following day, and that a minimum of 3 staff be capable of carrying out this task. So it was moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Call a question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Facio, Vidal, and Jackson opposed. Next item, please. Next.
Next item is item B, new business from Mayor Wood regarding statements of accounts from Lidstone and Company.
Thank you. So that's mine. So even as mayor, if I want to find certain information out, I don't even have access to it. So this is a motion to council, which is required so that as mayor, I can actually see information on the running of the village here. And so there's a motion on the table here that council receive the itemized statements of accounts billed to the village between July and December 2023 by Lidstone and Company barristers and solicitors. Do I move that? Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Allen. Discussion? Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think it's awfully important that the elected officials, being ourselves as councillors, and particularly you as a mayor and chief executive officer, in order to be accountable for the expenditure of public funds, we need to have clear and open and easy access to this information. At the moment, having occupied a lot of directorships and positions with fiscal responsibility, I'm feeling that I'm not really in control of how the village's money is being spent, and that I don't really have an ability from this councillor seat to be able to be accountable to the public for the expenditure of public funds. In the past, it's always been the mayor and the chief executive officer's responsibility. And when I was the mayor, the councillors would come to me with questions about what was being spent and why it was being spent, and I was able to answer those. But at the moment, with the system that we have in place, I don't feel that the accountability is there, and it needs to be. We used to run a checklist every month, and every councillor got a copy of the checklist. So we knew as councillors what money was being spent, and we could ask the questions why it was being spent. And I think we need to return to that level of accountability for financial stewardship. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on this, Councillor Facio?
Thank you, Mayor Wood, through you to our financial officer. Good to see you. Do we not receive, does the council not receive, is it every 3 or 4 months, a statement of accounts?
Through, thank you, Mayor Wood, through you to Councillor Facio. Yes, we provide a quarterly summary of financial statements, and it is in summarized form. At that point in time, I'm absolutely happy to answer any additional questions that council may have, unless council wishes to change that process.
Further discussion? No, Councillor. So I'm going to jump in here on this one here. So this here is specifically for council's eyes only. This is not released to the public. And this is specifically to the village legal business that has happened in the last 6 months. We have spent substantial amounts of money on legal expenses in the last 6 months. As Councillor Facio says that, yes, we have a statement for a 3-month period, which says sundry expenses. Sundry expenses doesn't do it for me. I need to know where and why we have spent these large amounts of money. I would hope any council member here would support that. Ready to call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Nobody opposed, passes unanimously. Next item, please.
The next item is item C, new business from Counselor Vital regarding FVRD Board and Hospital Council appointment.
Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'll put my motion on the table. That Councillor Facio maintain his appointment as Municipal Director of the Fraser Valley Regional District Board and the Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District Board for the remainder of this term, and that Councillor Alan Jackson be appointed as alternate Municipal Director of the Fraser Valley Regional District Board and the Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District Board for the remainder of this term.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Jackson. Discussion? Counselor Allen, and then Counselor Vidal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Again, I must object to this as an ambush resolution. In reading that simple line in the agenda, I had no idea that Councillor Vidal was going to propose that Councillor Facio occupy our regional district board seat for the next 3 years, thereby blocking the proper appointment of our Mayor Wood, to that position. To my mind, it is inconceivable that any municipality who elects a leader and a spokesman for the municipality is not allowed to have that person representing the municipality at the next level of government up, which is the Fraser Valley Regional District. In our case, in all my time at FVRD and in dealing with Metro Vancouver, it has always been the case that the mayor of the member municipalities is the director and represents that municipality on the regional board. And I just find it enormously insulting to our mayor. And I find it not only insulting to him, but I find that it weakens our representation when we do not have the mayor and the CEO on that board speaking for us, as he alone is capable of doing. So I strongly object to the fact that this council has voted not to allow our mayor to be our proper representative at the regional level. And I strongly object to Councillor Vidal's motion tonight, which is a surprise to me, that would confirm that exclusion of our mayor for the next 3 years. I think it's completely wrong. Thank you.
Ready to call it? Counselor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Councillor Facio is a long-serving member on these boards, and in this capacity has served both this and previous councils effectively and efficiently. He is a well-respected director of these boards. And as we see tonight, he continually reports back to council on topical and urgent issues which affect the village as a member of the Fraser Valley Regional District. And I will also quote Section 198 of the Local Government Act, appointment and term of office for municipal directors. After the first appointment, under Section 4.1, each municipal director is to be appointed at the pleasure by council from among its members. The term of office of a municipal director begins when the person takes office in accordance with Section 202, which is the oath of office, and continues until the earliest of the following: another director taking office in the original director's place, the director ceasing to be a member of the council before the next general election, November 30th in the year of a general election. And I also do want to make note that both the chair and the vice chair of the Fraser Valley Regional District come to that table and that appointment who are counselors. They are not mayors.
Order, please.
I have the floor, Councillor Allen, thank you.
Order, please.
I would urge this council to support my motion. I believe Councillor Facio has served us well and will continue to serve us during the remainder of the term. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson. Thank you. Councillor Facio.
No comment, Mayor Wood.
Thank you. I find it a very, it is an insult. I find it bordering harassment. I find it disrespectful. I can go on with a lot of words. When I meet with the other ministers and have no idea what's happening at the Fraser Valley Regional District, the hospital board, it makes this village look pretty dysfunctional. We have a name, we're well known for being dysfunctional. This creates more dysfunction. I meet with the ministers without counselors there. How do I have discussions with the ministers when I have a counselor who believes she should be giving it to a previous mayor? He is not the mayor anymore. He is a counselor. You are counselors. I was elected as the mayor for this village. This makes us so much more dysfunctional. And how you can't see that as being anything other than bullying and harassment, I have nothing further to say. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Very much opposed, Mr. Mayor.
Motion passes with Councillor Allen and the mayor opposed. Next item, please.
Next item is item D, new business from Councillor Allen regarding weather station to monitor wind data.
Go ahead, Councillor Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, my resolution is fairly self-evident. What has happened here is that we got a report from Blackwell and Associates, the same people that we seem to be hiring again, by the way. And the report, which was supposed to lay out the fire hazard in Harrison Hot Springs, got the wind direction completely backwards, wrong. It doesn't blow from the north in the summertime in fire season. It blows from the south. That report was received by the previous council and by the staff, and nobody challenged the report. The report, as a result of this fundamental error in wind direction, is not only useless, Mr. Mayor, it is dangerous, because it actually understates the hazard dramatically. The hazard here is the hot afternoon winds in the normal summertime that blow stronger and stronger into the valley, get compressed between the hillsides, accelerate, and would carry embers for a half a mile or perhaps a mile.
Councillor Allen,
The village.
Councillor Allen, I'm just, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you here. I just noticed here. So, was there a motion? I need to move, have a motion here in a second there, sir.
Okay, sorry, so I'll make the motion that I'm speaking to. I move that my recommendation for a weather station on Macomb Drive be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? I'll second that just for discussion. Go
Can I
ahead.
carry on?
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. So we have an opportunity here. There are several weather stations privately run in the village that have really good weather data. One of them is the Springs RV Park. The others were run by people in the wind sports, windsurfing society, and we had one on the roof of Memorial Hall for some years. And those are the kind of data that people like Blackwell need in order to produce accurate reports and accurate assessments about fire hazard. So what I'm suggesting is that since we have a high transmission tower on Macomb Drive, ideally located in the center of the village, and it's far enough away from the influence of hillsides on either side, that we ask for permission from CRTC or CBC or whoever it is that owns that tower to install a small weather station which would record the wind data and other things over a period of a summer. So we can then say to people like Blackwell, here is the data from our weather station in the center of our village in the middle of the fire hazard area. And that's the kind of scientific data that we need to move ahead with protecting this village from wildfire. I don't see it as being an enormous expense. These weather stations come in different levels of sophistication. A simple one is a couple of grand. And I think it'd be well worth doing in order to have that data. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ready to call the question? All in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Vidal, Facio, and Jackson opposed. I just noticed as I was calling the question. Done? Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Wood. In response to Councillor Allen's comments regarding the, I believe it was the wildfire plan and the wrong direction of the wind, I believe that our community services manager has a response to and potential update to that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, through yourself to Councillor Allen. I am still waiting on a formal written response from Bruce Blackwell. However, I did speak to him verbally, and one of the things he highlighted was that when a company produces a wildfire protection plan, they are required to use the weather stations that are operated by BC Wildfire Service. So for their wildfire protection plan that they created for Harrison Hot Springs to be approved by BC Wildfire, to get like the check mark that they were okay to be submitting that to the village, they did have to use their own weather stations. So I'm still waiting, like I said, for a bit more of a formal written response back to that, and to see if there are any adjustments that they could make from nearby wind stations. But they did highlight that they do have that requirement where they have to use the BC Wildfire weather stations. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I'd like just to respond to that. So my inquiries with Bruce Blackwell indicated that the only weather station that he was able to use to meet this criteria, which I think is irrational, was the Hague weather station at Hope, which is on the north side of the Fraser River near their helicopter pad. And to me, that might as well be in Zimbabwe for all the relevance it has to Harrison Hot Springs. Even the weather station at Pacific Agricultural Research Center, which is a federal weather station, doesn't appear to meet their criteria. So maybe what we need to do is to ask for BC Wildlife Service to install a weather station on the Macomb Drive tower, if in fact that is the only weather and wind data that they are going to recognize. Not much point in us putting one up to say, well, it's not ours, so we won't listen to it. So is that may be a possibility that we ask the BC Wildfire Service to install a weather station at Macomb Drive. And I'd like maybe staff could explore that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I know that we've already voted on this motion, but just wanted to point out that there are numerous cell phone apps that are available to anybody that will provide real-time wind direction and speeds. And you can zoom right in, or you can search Harrison Hot Springs. And I know that that is used by windsurfers here. And also BC Wildfire Service has multiple advanced technologies that they have in use all through the wildfire season. Just for information. Thank you, Mayor Wood.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda here.
The next item is new business from Councillor Allen regarding Canadian geese population control.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to make another motion, even though my record of success tonight is very poor. And this concerns Canada geese. And I should just say that I had my breakfast this morning in Geneva, my lunch in Frankfurt, and my dinner in Harrison. And it's a long way to come for such a big disappointment, but I'll try again. My resolution is that whereas the ever-growing population of Canada geese in Harrison Village continues to create a health hazard for our beaches, parks, public areas, and whereas this invasive goose population costs the community many thousands of dollars each year in dealing with the droppings and keeping our public areas clean, and whereas other communities have successfully reduced their health hazards and costs by exercising birth control of their goose populations, and whereas Harrison would be cleaner, safer, and better off with less geese, therefore be it resolved that the village apply immediately for permission to humanely reduce the reproductive rate of Canada geese in the Harrison Lake area during the 2024 nesting season, and that the sum of $7,000 be allocated to this task in the 2024 village budget. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? I'll second it for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor. Councillor Facio, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Through you, Mayor Wood, to our staff, have we over the years or had any health concerns from visitors or residents regarding the goose droppings that are reported to the village office?
Next question, Councillor.
No?
Next question, Councillor.
The cost, of course, of the maintenance, we do have a which I believe 2 years ago, Parksville made a big deal on global TV of having this machine that picks up goose droppings, and we've been using ours at least 2 or 3 years prior to them, but we got no global coverage. But it does a very good job as part of the day-to-day maintenance of our staff. And to my knowledge, I have personally haven't received any calls from residents in regards to any health concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I should just explain that we do get the water in the lagoon particularly tested on a weekly basis. And the Department of Health has come back with elevated coliform levels in the lagoon, and they've attributed those coliform levels to all the goose poop around the beach and the grass area washing into the water during rainfall events. So when kids go in that water and they get swimmer's itch or they scratch themselves, they're subject to infection by all of that high coliform. We have had the health department actually close the beach. So there is a health hazard risk, and there's definitely a health problem. The situation is quite simple. The Canada geese were brought in here by Mr. Wells from Sardis many years ago as a hunting target. They've got out of control, and now they're overpopulating. And if you look out there today, you will find that we have some of those geese that don't even bother migrating anymore. They're here year round. pooping all over the village. One of the best ways to control them is to go around in nesting season, and most of the nests will contain 6 eggs. So what you do is you either addle the eggs or you oil the eggs and you leave one. The 5 eggs that you have addled or oiled will not hatch. The 1 egg will hatch, and that couple of geese will have 1 offspring instead of 6. Do that for 2 or 3 years and your goose population shrinks dramatically. So what I'm proposing is we start to deal with the issue of the goose population at the fundamental control level and start to reduce the population down to where it becomes less and less of a problem, and perhaps it might eventually go away completely. But unless we do something, it's going to continue to grow, continue to be a cost, continue to be a health hazard to the village, and we really need to be proactive in doing something with it. I don't know what the cost is in manpower and machinery for the daily sweeps of the beach, but I would think we must be into the tens of thousands of dollars every year. We could be saving a lot of that if we would deal with the population, as I'm suggesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. I've read Migratory Bird Act of 1994, and while you can't apply for a permit to dispose of eggs, species like this, they adapt much quicker than we do. So if you move them from one place or with the counselors, they'll find another place to go. I love the birds, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form prepared to back anything that's going to see or kill our great birds. What's next? Is it this? Is it the blue jays next, or the hummingbirds? I mean, we live with these. They live with us. We have to learn to live with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mayor. With just a couple of comments that I did some extensive research on the success rate of trying to reduce a goose population. And to date, really nothing has been truly successful. I know Councillor Allen talked about addling the eggs in the nest. However, the difficulty is finding and locating those nests in order to do that. And yes, it may cost staffing hours during our tourism season to clean the beach and grass area. And that is one of the reasons and why we implemented our paid parking program, so that we would be able to afford seasonal staff to look after our beaches and maintain them during the tourist season. So I can't support this recommendation either. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one comment for myself, and that's, sometimes we forget that when you go down and you take the kids down, you sit in the sand, you play in the sand, and the sand is full of the goose poop. Honestly, I don't think anybody really likes it. I hear what Councillor Jackson says, and I mean, I can feel the same way, but when you see the little kids playing with poop right in the sand and stuff, if we could do something about it that was humane, I mean, I would support it. If it wasn't humane, then obviously I wouldn't support it. Anyhow, ready to call a question. So the motion on the table is that the village apply immediately for permission to humanely reduce the reproductive rate of Canada geese in the Harrison Lake area during the 2024 nesting season, and that a sum of $7,000 be allocated to this task in the 2024 village budget. So it was moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by myself. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion fails with Councillor Vidal, Facio, and Jackson opposed. Next item, please.
Next item is item F, new business from Councillor Facio regarding a village office.
Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. I'd like to put forward a resolution for council's consideration to refer to staff to come back to council with a draft plan, cost and funding sources for a new office and chambers. And I'm not referring to a civic center. I'm referring to an office and chambers. I would say in size to what I've seen would be very adequate, would be the existing new one that's being built for Tourism Harrison. That's, without a museum, that would seat at least 30 to 40 people. And you have the offices upstairs. But anyway, that's not for me to decide. It's just to ask the staff to come back with a draft plan and then for council to discuss it and move forward or not move forward or send it back for different ideas. So that's my my resolution there, Wood.
Can you, Counselor, can you just help me with, can you help just clarify what, in fact, the motion actually reads?
Yeah, the note to the resolution for council consideration to refer to staff to come back to council with a draft plan with costs and funding sources for a new office and chambers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Counselor Jackson. Sorry, I'm just running short of paper here. Discussion on that? Any further discussion, Counselor Allen?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm opposed to the resolution. I think this is a planning matter. We are supposed to, as a council, plan for the future. And we need to plan for the future population of the village, which was last projected as being 3,000 people, so about a 50% increase in our current size. And around that target figure, we need to have adequate roads, sidewalks, parks, water, sewer, public works yard, meeting space, school, fire department. All of those things are part of a planning process that is the responsibility of council to carry on through the normal planning process. You cannot take one component out of there and say, we're going to build an administrative center. There are other things that are equally important, such as sewer and water and parkland. So I don't agree with this being given to staff as a standalone planning item. Planning requires joined up thinking, which we have not been doing in Harrison for some time. And when you do joined up thinking, you gather all of these things together and you consider them all at the same time so that the growth happens evenly and the provision of services comes with the growth. So I don't agree with this being tasked to staff in any way at this time until we've gone through a planning process that says, what do we need in the way of public meeting space? What do we need in the way of administrative space? What do we need in the way of a fire hall, probably big enough to accommodate a ladder truck as our buildings are getting higher? And what do we need in the way of a new public works yard? Those are all infrastructure issues that need to be dealt with in a planning environment, not on a piecemeal basis. So I'm opposed to staff spending any time on dealing with this possible future need on an isolated basis. Thank you.
No further discussion? Ready to call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes with Counselor Allen and the mayor opposed. Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is questions from the public.
Questions from the public, please.
Good evening, Happy New Year. Teresa Omelis, 641 Schooner Place. In regards to the Active Communities grant, has any consideration been given to replacing the swing sets on the beach? This is a popular playground equipment piece that was removed in, was it the spring of 2023, thereabouts, my memory, or the fall? And the kids have missed it greatly. I know there's a couple of parents here, their kids used to play on it. There's neighbors on our street, their kids miss it desperately. So please, if that $50,000 could also be looked at towards putting approximately a $2,000 playground set back on the beach, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. No counselor.
Gabriel Thornton, Chestnut Avenue.
Yeah.
I have a question for the three counselors on this goose poop. You say you've got a machine that cleans up the poop in the morning. Well, who's cleaning it continuously on the day? Because I have my grandchildren out there middle afternoon and they're sitting in it and it's disgusting. So I like Mr. Allen's suggestion. The geese, they're bothersome. And if you're only cleaning it in the morning, 2 hours later, you got poop all over the place. So how often do you clean it and why do you only do it once instead of continuously all day if you want tourists to be here with their children?
Thank you. Is there anybody on Zoom? No.
If anyone, if anyone on Zoom has a question, please use the raise your hand feature. It doesn't appear that there's any questions on Zoom.
Just one last question. Go ahead. Just one last question.
This is really quick. This goes actually in regards to my question. When I attended the UBCM last September, I obtained a number of quotes, pamphlets, contacts in regarding play equipment and spray park equipment. That was one of the platforms that I was running on for the kids of Harrison. I'm sorry, kids, I wasn't elected, but I'm still doing my best. I'm happy to provide those pamphlets and brochures to the use of the mayor and council and staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Call for adjournment. So moved by Councillor Jackson, seconded by Councillor Allen. Call the question. All in favor? Nobody's opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Passes unanimously. Yes.